How to figure out a fair price to pay for your Volkswagen bus project. And this is pretty much across the board. Now, these two buses here are extremely desirable and rare. Okay, so if it's desirable and rare, of course, that is going to be worth more than something that is just, a regular bus. Okay, this is a SO23 camper, 61 Westphalia. This is a 6613 window van. Now, okay, some guys say, first of all, I just want to go through a couple things because I see this guys go and buy a double door walk-through project. I watch a guy buy one of these and he goes, oh, it's a 59. It's really rare. Okay, but it's not really desirable because I don't know if you guys have ever driven a panel van, but they totally suck to drive. Okay, unless you're going to turn it into a 23 window, which some guys are doing. They totally suck to drive. They are not fun. After you get it all done, you're going to go, wow, this thing sucks. And then you're going to have a hard time selling it because guys that are buying them are not stupid. Okay, they know a lot of stuff. And the reason they can pay $250,000 is because they're not dumb. They got the money because they're not dumb. Okay, and they're not going to buy that bus for a ton of money because it's rare. So what? It's rare. It doesn't mean anything unless it's desirable and rare. Okay, so that's for premium buses. But I'm going to back up for a second. Let's talk about what makes a bus project a certain value, because I see too many people right now paying way too much for a project. So I'm going to tell you how you calculate this. Okay, so your project price plus your restoration cost should never exceed the value of the bus that's done. In other words, look for ones that are for sale. Let's say this one was for sale and I was asking $60,000 for it. Okay, okay, you look at a bunch of them, they're about $60,000. You look at how complete they are, how original they are, how well they're restored. Okay, now, so you look at one of these things and it's for sale and the guy wants 25 grand for it. How much is it going to, so you buy let's say you buy the bus for 25 grand, and then how much money is it going to cost you to get it to look like this that's restored, or like this one? This one I'm going to repaint the bottom. And I've got all the original seat covers for it. So when it's all done, it'll probably be worth in those numbers somewhere. But it doesn't matter because I'm not selling it anyway. So, but this is what I want to explain to you guys is guys are going out right now and they're looking at a bus and they're buying them like they're a gold mine. And they figure, oh, it's one of these, it's a bus, so it's got to be worth money. And that's not necessarily true. You need to look at your total project after it's, let's say you buy it, okay, and let's say you have to kind of go backwards. You have to go look at the ones that are done. Let's say you see one of these SO23s and it's all done, restored, and the guys are selling it for, they're hard to find for sale, okay, because they're just not. But let's say they have it for sale and it's 100 grand. Okay, and then so, wow, okay, well, there's some room for me to make money, or not to make money, but room for me to buy a project, and eventually it'll be worth $100,000. Now, if let's say you bought this bus again for 25 grand, again, and as a project, and it was just a shell, had no bumpers and no emblems, it had no interior, it had, none of the parts, a lot of the parts are missing. Can you take a shell like that and turn it into what this bus is going to be when it's done, which is not done now? The interior is not in it, which is a huge part of the deal. Okay, but let's say you think we could just turn this into that for $50,000, and it's probably not going to happen. So what guys are thinking is they think, oh, I've got this bus and I've got this project bus and it's for sale for $10,000, and it needs cargo floors and it needs outer rockers. All the rust is around the bumpers is gone. It doesn't have any bumpers on it. It's got no clock in the interior. It's a 13 window. It's got no clock inside. It's got no horn button. It doesn't have any of the chrome parts that are original. It's missing this emblem. It doesn't have any of this trim. It's missing the gel bar seats. It's missing all the interior seats, and some of them I've seen with no seats in the front. And because it's a 13 window, they want to pay, you know, $10,000 for it. Well, you got to take this, turn around backwards to say, but they go, oh well, I can get it painted for $10,000. Bull crap! If you need new floors and it needs new front floors and new these things here, and you know the dog legs are messed up. You got always have a nose issue, almost every one of them, and you've got you know, you're not going to get a $10,000 paint job to take care of that. Okay, you're not going to get somebody to do all that metal work for $10,000. You know, that legitimately should be $25,000 to $30,000 or more, depending on the level of restoration you're doing. If you're doing a really, really nice restoration, you know, that's going to bring in $100,000 bus, you know, then yeah, it's going to be, might even be more than that, quite a bit more than that. Some of the guys are doing all this, everything butt welded and everything really nice and just super smooth and super flat. And, you know, all that takes a lot of time, costs a lot more money. So, you know, you're looking at hundreds, you know, maybe 200 hours of man hours of body work in a paint shop. So that's $100 an hour. So you're, you know, plus materials, 25 grand. So, you know, that's what we're talking about. So you need to know how much it's going to take to do the restoration before you can figure out what it's worth. So, and even if you're not going to restore it, let's say you're just going to buy it, cruise it or whatever, you should always have this calculation in your head that someday when I go to restore this bus, it's going to cost, you know, I'm going to drive it like it is. I don't care. I'm just going to cruise it the way it is. But someday when I go to restore this thing, it's, you know, it's going to cost, you know, 25 grand and I'm not going to be upside down in it. So that's the best way to determine value, is to go backwards, to go to the finished projects, look at the finished projects, see what they're going for, subtract what it's going to cost you to build it to that point, okay, and how much the parts are going to cost. And just let's go over real quick the parts costs, because a lot of people have a misconception on that. Okay, when it's a 13 window or a 21 window, the price for the parts are more, quite a bit more. Because you have more windows, you have trim pieces, you have interior parts. The seats are more expensive, even if you get reproduction ones. The clock, you know, you've got gel bars to put in if you're trying to do an original restoration. So you have to factor all that in. So if you're looking at an 11 window, let me just give you some numbers for 11 window. 11 window parts are probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood. Depending on as long as you don't have a lot of stuff missing, like your new bumpers missing, that can add $1,000 to your, you know, pricing right there almost. If your bumpers and brackets are missing, so, you know, but let's just say you have all the parts are on the project, okay, and just you need the rubber and you need the all the, you know, maybe you need some seat covers and stuff like that, some interior parts, but we're not talking about Wolfsburg West complete interior. That gets really expensive, okay, if you're trying to do that original stuff, okay, but just basic seat covers and stuff like that, you're probably going to be looking at least $6,000 in parts, okay, with Safari windows. All right, so those are kind of a base number to go with. If it's a 13 window, that's of an 11 window van. That's like what I'm showing you in the picture right here. So there's 3 windows here plus this. For a 13 window, you're probably looking at more like 10, okay. If it's a camper and you're looking at if it's missing all the interior parts, you know, you're looking, it could go up extremely way higher, and especially if it's an SO23 Westphalia or a Westphalia SO, you know, one of the SOs, SO42, SO, you know, any of the Westphalia vans are going to be really, really, really expensive to do the interior. So you're talking, you know, it could get up into tens of thousands of dollars. You know, I don't even know. It could get up into 15 grand or so, or 20, just to do the interior. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your projects. Look at the ones that are done, see what they're selling for, subtract out, reasonably what you think it should cost using the kind of numbers that I'm explaining to you. Don't just figure, hey man, I'm going to find some guy who's going to paint this thing for $4,000 for me. If you ever get it back from him, if you get it for 10 grand, he's doing you a huge favor, and you might have the bus for 2 or 3 years. And like a friend of mine did a bus for I think 11 grand, and he did not make 1 penny on it. By the time he got done, he had some of his guys do some body work on it and everything, and by the time he got done, he made nothing. It was beautiful. The guy got a great deal, but he made nothing. They had a little shop. He did try to do it himself. He tried to do one of these things. So anyway, those are a couple heads up on, what to do when you're trying to purchase your van and how to figure out your value of your project. Just so you know, right now, people are selling them at a premium on the project level. So you might end up paying more than that if you really want one. I would not recommend doing that, but there's tons of. I just talked to a guy. He spent on a shell, 11 window shell. He spent $11,000. Okay, I'm not saying that you can't get that for your bus. Somebody, if you're ever one for sale, but it's really not what it's worth. You're selling it for a lot more than it's worth. And hey, if somebody's stupid and they want to give you that kind of money, just take their money and run. But before you are the one shelling out, try and figure it out, have some reasoning and some rhyme in buying it. Talk to you in the next video.